So I created this video talking about perception and how our perception essentially creates a lens through which we experience our lives. And in this video, I talk about an experience I had with my husband in which I expected one thing and got another. And the way I described it, some people had a reaction, and so I wanted to address this because I don't ever want to make claims that I can't come up with some reasonable way to ground it into reality. I mean, I'm an energy girl all the way, but I am also really analytical, and I like to understand what it is that I'm looking at. So at the end of this video, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to explain what's actually happening. Hi, I'm Rachelle with Live in Vibrancy, and I'm a relationship coach, and I help people use the law of attraction to save relationships in turmoil. Whether you're experiencing tension, silence, negative interactions, or your relationship has broken down. So today I just wanted to share a clip from a live that I did a little earlier in my group because I thought some of it was really good to help illustrate how it is that we go in, we apply meanings, and we just start to create into the future. And so by using this, you can actually begin to create the relationship, the career, whatever it is that you want. And I talk about relationships because that's what I do. This is sort of like a follow-up to yesterday's video about how our perception of ourselves can also affect how we create our reality. So I didn't share the exercise that I reference. In order to see that, please go ahead and click the link to join my Facebook group. Okay, so today I want to talk about perception, but the way that we create perceptions outside of ourselves. Because our perceptions really play a significant role in not only creating something in our lives, but basically living within that creation. So if you are in a relationship and you have these perceptions and you are not aware of how they're being created, then you can, in essence, sort of blow the whole thing apart. Okay, so perception of ourselves and the situation, it causes us to look at the world around us and apply meanings and definitions. So if I have a perception of myself that I'm not very good at something, I'm going to go in and I'm going to begin to give meanings to people's expressions or define their actions that aligns with that perception that I have of me and my capability or who I am or kind of how I feel about myself. And a lot of this will run underneath the surface. So you may not actually be aware of it, but that's the point of this conversation, is to kind of start to raise awareness about this, because being aware of these things is a really important part of basically creating a life that you want to live. We build reality from our perceptions, and our perception of self is kind of like the foundation, and then the perception of the world around us is like the bricks. And so we know from, like Daniel Simons did a lot of experiments on perception and basically the information that we take in from the world around us. And what a lot of his experiments demonstrate, like the invisible gorilla, is that we're actually only aware of maybe like 20% of our environment around us, and even that might be generous. And of that 20%, or of the rest of the 80%, sorry, we just kind of make it up. And so this was, or if we aren't anticipating it, because we've already defined the way that we expect something to go, we will not see the things that are right in front of our face. And so in the invisible gorilla experiment, if you haven't seen it, Google it, I recommend it. But basically, I'm gonna spoiler it right now. There is two basketball teams. One team is wearing white and one team is wearing black. And they're on the court, and then they ask you to count the number of times the players wearing white pass the ball. And so because you are so focused on one thing, your mind is sort of filling in the rest. A gorilla walks right between the play, and almost nobody, I think it's like a 5% of people actually notice. And you think, really, a gorilla walks into the middle of a basketball court right through the play, you would think that we would notice that, but we don't. And so this sort of should give you an idea of how in any situation, you're actually making up a lot of the story. And so depending on your level of awareness of this, you can really kind of torque your life because you may be operating off a skewed assessment of yourself, and then a skewed assessment of others. And so before I do this demonstration, and it's okay that there's no one here because you'll be able to play this game by yourself. And I can't take credit for it. I am training with Chris Duncan under my To-Do Magnetic Mind. And this is an activity he got us to do, and it was really fun, so I wanted to share it. But before I do, I want to talk about, oh, hi. Hello, Facebook user. I'm glad you're here. Sorry, unless you log in, StreamYard doesn't show me who you are. But so the first experience I ever had with perception was I took I guess I was in a program a number of years ago, and we would call in and we would talk to I guess I'm not sure what you would call him, but he, I guess at the time, would have been my mentor. So you talk to him and you ask questions, and oh, hi, Angie. And he helps you, he answers your questions and basically coaches you through this. So I guess he would have been my coach. And I recall calling in and I was having a lot of amazing results. And so this is the program that basically showed me how to use energy in order to manifest reconciliation in a relationship. And so I was on the call and I had said to him, wow, I'm really grateful because I have tried a lot of things, like, you know, you see a lot of things that are out there, like text your lover back, which, you know, whatever. And so I had tried these. I'd read a lot of books. And so a lot of it had hacky information and a lot of it had like psychology stuff, but I digress. So I was telling him that for the first time, I had not only received the information, but was given how to apply it. And I had really was so glad that I had decided to go ahead and join, because I had really poked around and just kind of dragged my feet to do it, because I was really leery, because I had had so many negative experiences that I really just kind of expected this one would be negative too, but it hadn't been. And it actually, when I had looked at it, I had sort of, my initial impression was it was too good to be true. And so I said that to him. And the way he said it, he said, too good to be true. And then went on about how, you know, is it too good to be true that he had gone through all this blah, blah, blah. And in that moment, based on the place I was emotionally, the concept that I had of myself at the time, I used to actually be very leery to even call in, even though there was no cameras at all. I think I was maybe on like a total of 5 of those calls, and literally would have to like pump myself up to do it, because I was one of those people, like I was a writer, so I was really a behind the screen, nobody see me kind of person. And so and from that perception of myself, I had called in and he had responded to what I said, and I thought he was angry. And I thought he was actually quite angry at my comment. And so I didn't call back in for probably almost 6 months. And the funny thing is now I'm a lot different than I was. I've done a lot of, I guess, understanding me, navel gazing, as some people like to call it, introspective work, to just really be aware and learn who I am and understand the perceptions I have and that Karen I have in my head that tells me, that I suck. So she might be right sometimes, but not all the time. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't call back. And then I would say maybe a year ago, I decided to revisit some of those calls just to sort of kind of get a sense of where I was. Because as I was building the program that I have, or I guess the coaching that I do, I wanted to really understand the journey that I had gone on so that I could help other people basically replicate that. And so when I listened to the call, he wasn't angry at all. It was like, it was a smack in the face of how our perception really creates our experience. He was laughing. He was laughing with me, in fact, but I wasn't laughing. I was cringing and cowering. And so that to me was really eye-opening of how when we have a perception of something or we define a situation in a certain way, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not because it becomes true for us. And so that was, I guess, the point I was demonstrating with that call or with that song was that girl's assessment of her singing was completely wrong. And we can completely misjudge a situation or an interaction with another person based on not only the cues that we take or the information that we make up and fill in, but just where we personally are and how we view ourselves. And so, yeah, that was sort of the very first time, as I said, that I got a sense of how the definitions that I am creating in the world around me are actually creating my reality as well. It's not just the things I think and the things I wish. So yeah, I just really wanted to kind of demonstrate how it's not just the way that we assess ourselves, but we're actually doing that to ourselves too. But it's also the way that we are seeing the people around us. So if you go into any given situation and you have already started to like have that argument, or your emotions are already sort of creating ahead of you that this is going to be a negative interaction, then yeah, that's what you're going to get because you have already started sort of like future casting this. And I mean, I know I'm good at ratting myself out. There's not a lot that I'm not kind of sharing with people about how like, sorry, this is me. So I was making pizza, and when I met my husband, he was a really fussy eater. And I mean, I'm not a line cook, so I was really not that girl who's like, oh, sure, I'll make whatever you want. Like, I'm just not her. So I just tell him like, I don't know, just pick it out or eat whatever you want. Just eat the things on the plate you want and leave the rest. I know, nice wife, hey? But so eventually his palate expanded, but sometimes he still is in that habit of complaining. And because I have chosen that I'm just really not going to be dragged around by that, I just ignore it. But I noticed I don't ignore it. So I was making these pizzas, and because he has this habit of complaining and I have sort of learned to kind of ignore it or not react, and he just eats it anyway, and 99% of the time he really likes it, I was making this pizza, and as I'm chopping up these toppings, I'm having this argument in my head, and I caught myself, fortunately, and changed that story. But I was literally creating his complaining. So I started like, I could feel like me getting annoyed, like that emotion in my body. And I could hear him saying like, ew, why'd you choose these? I hate these on pizza. I caught myself like literally creating an argument, creating the thing that irritates the heck out of me. And so I caught myself and I stopped and I kind of told a different story. Like, no, it's going to be just fine. And even if he does complain, it's no different and who cares? Like, keep going. But, choose something different. And sure enough, I chose a better story and he didn't say anything negative. He ate the pizza and he thanked me and he said it was fantastic. And I was like, oh my God, like how much of my life am I doing that in? So yeah, I'm glad you're here, Angie. I don't really have too much more that I think that I need to say about this topic. I think that maybe these illustrations can show you that if you start really noticing in your own life when you're having that internal argument where you're basically creating into the future and you're doing it unconsciously. And so you're getting the result, and whether or not you're reacting to the result, because every time he complains, I don't react, but I'm creating it. That I, stopped doing that. So if you can live more consciously, if you live in awareness, you can have so much more power to live a life of real joy. To see the demonstration that I have omitted from this video, but share, please go ahead and join, click the link to join my Facebook group where you can find this original video. Okay, so now I want to talk about the interaction that I had with my husband and the pizza. So I want to first start by saying what I didn't say. What I didn't say was that I changed the story and I determined exactly what he was going to say by using my mind. I didn't say that. What I did say was that I caught myself having an internal argument over an expectation that I had that was based on previous experience. So what I did, the previous experience was that when I met my husband, he was a really picky eater. And even though he has become less picky over time, that initial experience would have happened enough times that that's now created sort of a model for me of who he is in my mind. This happens with everyone, not just me. So when you meet people, they do things that essentially, or say things that essentially allows you to create a model of who they are. And so you are always operating off this model until you become conscious of it and then can make different choices. So I admittedly have this model of him that he is known to complain about food. So now put me in the kitchen. I'm having this internal argument. So what am I doing to my nervous system? My nervous system is being activated. So my sympathetic nervous system is being activated. So now I move into a state of like, not anxiety, but anger. So like highly activated sympathetic nervous system. And so what happens is because I caught myself and changed the story and he said, thank you, this was great. I didn't make him say that. But what I didn't do was start a fight because I didn't come and tell him that dinner was ready with a highly activated sympathetic nervous system. Because what happens in human beings, and there are scientific studies about this, and so if you email me, I would be happy to send you some links to these. But there are studies in which they found that human brains sync up when we get into the same like proximity with other people. And so this causes our nervous systems to then sync up because we are like giant fleshy tuning forks. And so we tend to kind of create sort of like an equilibrium amongst us. And that's why whoever has the strongest energy wins. And this is why I specifically focus on helping people move through the emotions and learn to really manage their energy in order to manifest the relationships they want. Because the mirror neurons, and this is especially happens with eye contact, intensifies this, but our mirror neurons cause our brains to begin to become in coherence with one another. And this is why you are the sum total of the people that you spend your time with. And I know that I've talked about this in some of my earliest videos that I had posted on Facebook. That you are the sum total of roughly the 5 people. And I didn't obviously make that up. There are lots of people that say this. But this is the reason. Scientific study found that your brain is actually the result of the brains around you when you are with other people. And it actually begins to kind of like it can, the more time you spend with them, the more you become them in multiple circumstances. So humans will start to talk like one another. Their nervous systems sync up. And so what really happened was that I calmed myself down from that little internal argument that I was having with myself so that I was actually happy because I was telling a different story and I was monitoring my energy. And so when I went, and I have a lot of control over my energy when I don't slip into unconscious patterns. So I am the energy that wins. I have the coherent energy, so the people around me match me. So what happened was I came in and so instead of sparking his nervous system so that he is, because if you think about it, when you feel anxious or when you feel annoyed, how likely are you to make a kind comment or how likely are you to make a negative comment? So what happened was rather than me sparking with my excited nervous system, sparking his nervous system and creating an irritation in him that he's not aware of why this is happening because we do this very unconsciously. This is just an automatic response that we have. And so rather than him becoming irritated for a reason that he's not even really noticing, he's just noticing that he's irritated or maybe not even noticing that, but would be responding from that place. And so he would then be more likely to make a negative comment about the food rather than respond as himself in a more relaxed parasympathetic nervous system state. And so I just wanted to clarify that because some people were really, and yeah, Neville did say this, and there's science behind this. And so there's maybe more to it because there's also a science behind the fact that we do transmit thoughts through fields of energy, but that's a different topic altogether. And so, yeah, because some people were, I guess, really put off by me claiming that I noticed that by changing the story, I got a different reaction from him. I wanted to clarify that and maybe then back that up with why I made that statement because I recognized that was maybe out of context and needed a bit more information. So, like I said, if you want some links to some of these studies, I'd be happy to provide them. You can just email me at liveinvibrancy@gmail.com or Rachelle@liveinvibrancy.com. And I look forward to hearing from you.